Hello. So, we're back, baby. We're here for a reading vlog. Hurrah. Goodreads Choice Awards. We love them. We love to hate them. We love to watch them and comment on them. At least I do. And I thought, so when I was doing my live reaction to the nominees with Jess, I was contemplating doing like a full reading vlog of like reading a book from every category. And I could have done that, but I'm trying to honor the space that I am in my reading right now. And I think that that was a 2023 Mara move, not a 2024 Mara move. I think in 2024, what I have space for is allowing the Goodreads Choice Awards to prompt me to read things that were already on my TBR. Kind of like what I do at the beginning of the year, where I'm watching everybody's best of the year lists and ones that people are highlighting that were already on my radar or on my TBR, it prompts me to go ahead and pick them up. That's what we're going to do for the Goodreads Awards. So the three that I already have that I picked up this year are The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Dirts. This is a cozy fantasy romance, and it is nominated in the Romantasy category. I have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which is nominated in romance. It's a contemporary romance. I am aware that this is technically the third in a series, but I have been told I'm only hurting myself by not reading them in order, and I can live with that. So, you know, I know, but this is where we're going to start my Abby Jimenez journey. And then We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. So this is a whodunit type mystery. I believe it's starting a new series from him, and I'm very excited. So those are the three that I already had. And then I'm allowing it to influence me to pick up a fourth book, which is called Welcome to the something something Bookshop. I would need to see the title to have a prayer of pronouncing it. This is a work in translation, I believe from South Korea, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's been on my kind of radar all year. I've put it in my cart, I've taken it out, and I never actually went ahead and got it. But this is gonna prompt me to go ahead and just do it, pick it up. So I feel like that's my stretch book. That's in general fiction and best debut. So that's a twofer. And actually, technically this is both of these I think are twofers, because I think these are both also nominated in best audiobook. So we'll cover a few categories with these 4 books, but I feel like 4 books is definitely more reasonable for a 2-week reading project right now for me. And I'm already excited about these books, so win all around. So the reason we're starting tonight, or the reason I'm talking to you guys tonight, is because I am driving home tomorrow to do an early Thanksgiving lunch with my mom. And so I'm going to listen to We Solve Murders on the way. So we're getting this party started. I'm excited. It's been a while since I've done a reading project like this, and I feel excited for it, which I feel like bodes well. So let's do this thing. Wish me luck. Okay, so we made it to Mom Like Woe's house, and I probably got about a quarter of the way through We Solve Murders, and so far very promising. I'm really enjoying it. There's something about Richard Osman and his ability to write endearing characters who endear themselves to you so quickly. Like, our 2 main characters are Steve and Amy, and Steve is Amy's father-in-law. And they are so adorable. They're so sweet. Like, I don't know. Just the way he describes their relationship already is destroying me. Amy is a bodyguard, and Steve is a former police officer who has like a, you know, investigation agency now. And there's something afoot. She's got a client this client she has is in the same area as this guy who died at the beginning of the book. And we just found out that the guy who died at the beginning of the book was also one of her clients. And there's a couple of people who have died. There's something about money laundering. And that's about all we know right now. There's a lot of interesting, like, little nuggets that are getting revealed. Like I said, Richard Osman, it's not just endearing characters. I think he particularly has a way with, like, older characters, obviously from the Thursday Murder Club. But there's also, like, this little lady who's running a talent agency, and then Steve. I don't know. I just feel like it's like older characters and then morally dubious people that are still likable. Those seem to be his two kind of go-tos, and it works for me. What can I say? So we'll see how much I listen to on the way back, but yeah, so far definitely enjoying and am intrigued to see where this goes. I'm back at home hanging with the cats and more than halfway done with We Solve Murders. I switched to the physical form because I think for Richard Osman books, it's good for me to start at least with the audio because it helps me get in the flow and get a sense of the characters. But I've been doing just fine with print for the last 100 pages or so. So yeah, still very charmed by this book. Characteristically of Richard Osman, it's just a delight. Steve has my whole heart. He's grieving his wife, and he loves Amy so much, and he's just so emotionally constipated, but he loves her so much. And Amy, we keep getting these allusions to the fact that Amy had some sort of really, like, difficult childhood and that she's maybe a sociopath, but she still has so much love for Steve and Adam, her husband, though we just are now meeting him. And then they have this author with them, Rosie, who is a character. Yeah, it's very rompy. It's very action thriller. I would say this reads less of a mystery and more like an action thriller. So think like National Treasure, or what was that one with the older spies with Helen Mirren? It reads kind of like that. Maybe Killers of a Certain Age. That type of an action thriller. So I think I'm going to polish this off tonight because all of my knitting projects are blocking. So I think I'm getting a full evening of reading in. So I'll check back in once I finish. Okay, guys, I finished We Solve Murders. This was just lovely. I would say plot-wise, it's probably a 4-star, but because of how much I love these characters already in one book, I'm going to give it 4.5. This was just a delight, as Richard Osman always seems to be. This made me cry a couple times, because I think that it has some really sweet moments of... I think I'm just a sucker for emotionally constipated people. That's kind of the bottom line. Anytime somebody feels like they're unlovable, but they have love in their life, I'm an absolute sucker for that, which totally is how Amy is. And then Steve, her father-in-law, is processing the grief of his wife, Debbie, and that whole thing is just... it destroyed me. It was so tender. And it made me laugh out loud a few times, so I feel like that's also a bonus. In terms of characters I very much hope we hear from again, Carlos is probably my favorite, like, side character. Though he is supposed to be a South Carolina border patrol guy, and he refers to something as being mad, and I'm like... no, that's how I know this was not written by an American. But those things, they happen. Anyway, I'm babbling. This was just a delight. I loved it. 4.5 stars. So good. And I'm hoping that this is boding well, because my next up pick is going to be The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. And I have very little context for this. This is going to be a cozy romantasy from what I know. I have tried a chapter of her writing before in a different book and enjoyed it. So I'm confident the writing is going to be good. The premise is, let's see here, a lush cottagecore tale full of stolen spellbooks, unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and even sweeter love. Keela is a librarian. She has a magically sentient spider plant as her assistant. Well, that sounds delightful. The library is burned in the revolution. That doesn't sound very cozy. I don't know about that. Okay, she's gonna have to go back to her childhood home. And she becomes a jam maker. Oh my god. Yeah, okay, this sounds cozy AF. So this is going to be the next book. So this morning, let's switch so that my hand's not in frame. This morning I got going on the spell shop, and this is so delightful. I cannot even tell you. This is, I mean, I don't want to oversell this, but this is giving me strong, it's like Legends and Lattes, but with way more of a plot. So like if that was your problem with Legends and Lattes, this solves that, I think. There seems so far to be quite a bit of plot that's getting set up. I read you guys the premise, and it's just the characters are delightful, and it's a world with mer horses and mermaids and winged cats. See this little guy on the cover? So, like, it's just really delightful, and the magic stuff is interesting. Basically, magic is... I feel like we're setting itself up to be a little bit of a critique of capitalism. Or maybe not capitalism, but, like, authoritarianism, because it's... all the magic is hoarded in the Imperial City. And nobody's supposed to be doing magic, but the librarian who escaped has gotten back to her home island, and, like, all of the area is struggling because the emperor is supposed to be sending sorcerers out to, like, counterbalance the bad effects of the magic that they're doing in the capital on the outer islands, but he, like, is hoarding that power, so he hasn't been doing that. So, like, the fishing isn't as good, and the areas are not as prosperous as they were because, like, they get all of this bad weather. I guess maybe... Sir Beth Durst, are you also making a commentary on climate change and how the people who are least equipped to deal with it are the ones who suffer I don't know. Anyway, this is delightful so far, even aside from, like, some of the deeper themes that maybe one could read into this. The snake plant Kaz is delightful. Our main character Kyla, hard to say, Kiela, I think Kyla. I like her. She's a librarian, but she's learning how to take a little bit more risks. I don't know. So far, this is great, guys. I'm very much enjoying. Guys, this is so wonderful. This is my favorite, I think, cozy fantasy I've ever read. It has just the right amount of romance, just the right amount of cozy, and it has, for people who didn't like Legends and Lattes because there was no plot, this has a plot. It does take a while to get into, like, the full thick of that, but I would say the back 40% is pretty plotty. I don't know, man. This just worked for me. The characters, I think the fact that there are all of these, like, mer creatures, there's mer horses and mermaids and mer babies, and there's a unicorn, like, it's just, I don't know. It's, like, a lot of really fun fantasy elements that I think, I don't know. I think because they're often associated with, like, children's or teen girls fantasy, we don't see an adult fantasy that often, or not as much as we should. And it was fun. It was just fun to have that be such a big part of the world. The romantic lead, he is like a mer horse herder. So we get lots of mer horse time. And I don't know, guys, this is just a freaking delight. And yeah, my favorite cozy fantasy. I'm gonna give this 5 stars. This vlog is great. I'm loving this. Yeah, this is so good. I think I've only given out like 2 or 3 5 stars this year because it just hasn't been a great reading year in some ways. But I think this is a 5 star. I really like this. So I would say that if I would say Legends and Lattes, then Can't Spell Tea Without Treason, then The Spell Shop. That would be like in growing amount of plot to give you a sense. So if that was like the thing you didn't like about cozy fantasies you've tried before, I think this one so far has the most plot of anything I would truly consider to be a cozy fantasy that I've read. So I love this. I just put it in the pre-order order. So good. I think next we're going to do, since that was The Spell Shop, let's do Welcome to the Hyunam-dong Bookshop. We got a bookshop. I'll work on my pronunciation. This is by Hwang Bo-ram. And let me refresh myself on the description. Jeongju is burned out. She did everything she was supposed to do. Go to school, marry, then it fell apart. She abandons her old life, follows her dream. She opens a bookshop. In a quaint neighborhood in Seoul, surrounded by books, Jeongju and her customers take refuge. Let's see, they all have disappointments in their past, but the bookshop becomes a place where they all learn how to truly live. A heartwarming story about finding acceptance in your life and the healing power of books. Okay, well that sounds very thematically similar in some ways to The Spell Shop. So we got a bookshop following The Spell Shop. And that also sounds like a delight. Apparently this is just the vlog of delights, and I'm not mad at that. So I'm about to go live to react to the finalists for the Goodreads Choice Awards in each category. And before I do, I thought I would check in on this and say that I'm enjoying it so far. So I'm only about 50 pages in, which is I think like, I don't know, 20-ish%, 25%, something like that. And this is very interesting in its tone, because it's kind of an existentialist type story, like an existentialist, like what is the meaning of life type wrestling with what it is, the human condition, I guess. But it doesn't read as like depressing, because usually those kinds of books are very depressing. And it does talk about grief, like our main character it clearly has some like grief from the life she was supposed to have and didn't. But so far it's very like, I don't know, kind of just what is the meaning of life? And it seems like the answer it's suggesting is the meaning of life is what we do for each other, like how we interact with ourselves and the people around us, which is kind of a lovely message. So yeah, we got a bookshop, we got a bookseller, we got a cafe barista dude, we got fellow business owners, we got regular patrons. So yeah, I can see this is shaping up to be quite cozy. So that makes more sense to me now. But it is very interesting in its genre, because normally I associate those kinds of musings with being a big fat bummer, and this isn't so far. I finished 2 books. I just picked up another book after I finished this guy and read it straight through. So, welcome to the Hyunam-dong Bookshop. It's really delightful. Like, I get why this was a hit and why it ended up getting translated. I think I was telling you guys it's a lot about sort of like meaning of life, but in a positive way. And there's not a lot that happens. I mean, the characters definitely, I would not call this a plot heavy book. It's very character driven, and I really liked the characters. Yeah, we find out more about why the owner of the bookshop opened it, and more about why her marriage fell apart, and she's starting to get into a relationship with this guy, but has some hesitancy. Yeah, I don't know. There's just lots of little character conflict growth moments, and it equaled a lovely little cozy reading experience. I would say this was a cozy book that is not romance or fantasy, or mystery, which I feel like is not that common. So for that reason, yeah, it was a nice change of pace. So yeah, I'd give this like a B+, 3.5. It was good. I'm glad that this pushed me to read it. And then I just sat down and read all of Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, without checking in with you guys. So this is the third in a series. It's very clear which two couples were the couples in the previous books. I have Part of Your World, so I'll read that at some point. And then it also tells you about a couple that gets together, what I'm guessing is going to be the next couple based on the epilogue. But it's called Just for the Summer because the idea is that there are these two people who encounter each other online because one of their stories goes viral, because both of them are the person that people date before they end up with their soulmate. And so they're like, hey, they're kind of connecting and flirting a little bit. And then the guy, Justin, says, hey, maybe we should date each other so that we can cancel this curse and find our soulmate. So they agree. They'll go on 4 dates. There'll be one kiss. And the girl, Emma, is a traveling nurse. So she arranges to spend 6 weeks in a gig in Minneapolis, because it's Minnesota, so that they can date. And love ensues. There's a lot of... I have really conflicting feelings about this book because quality-wise, this is an extremely high-quality book. I would put this easily on par with Emily Henry in terms of really nice writing, good character development. I thought the character conflicts made sense. He is taking guardianship over his 3 younger siblings because his mom's going to prison for a few years. So that's kind of like a complication for him and where he's at in his life, because that's about to happen when they meet. And then she has the biggest piece of shit for a mother who is just the worst. Amber was so hateable. Good job, Abby Jimenez, making me hate this woman. And her mom is like really messed her up. I mean, she's toxic, feels like a buzzword, but she's abusive. She's emotionally abusive to her daughter, for sure. Emotionally, mentally, verbally. Yeah. And so Emma has a lot of like issues with getting close to people. So like the way the story progresses made a lot of sense. I thought the characters were really good. It does have nice moments of humor. So like quality wise, I would give this like a 4.5. But I think I just, especially in my contemporaries, I just don't want this amount of emotion. Like, I don't want this amount of like real conflict. I really am at a place in my romance journey where I really prefer external conflicts, because that's just what I want from a romance novel, is some level of escapism, and just like the guarantee of the romance is that they're going to end up together. The same way the guarantee of a mystery is they're going to figure out who done it and order will be restored to the world. And like having a lot of emotions to get there is indicative of a skilled writer, and it's not a ding on the book. It's just not where I'm at in my life. Of the world is hard right now, and I just want these crazy kids to get together without a lot of hubbub. So for that reason, all that to say, I'm giving this a 4, but it's better than a 4 in terms of its quality. Like, I completely get why this author has become so popular, why these books are such big hits if the other ones are like this. But for the same reason I chose not to read the Emily Henry this year that came out, even though I'm sure it would have been great, I just am not in a headspace where that's like the kind of romance I'm reaching for at the moment. So that's the only reason why it's not getting a higher rating. But I do have another one, and in like 6 months when I'm in the mood, and have space for another more emotional contemporary, I'll pick it up because this was very good and I can see why she has so many fans. So those are all the books I plan to read, but my Christmas tree is going to go right here tomorrow. And I just realized when I was reacting to the finalists that there was one other book on my TBR in the nominees, and that was The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which I'd already started, but it is a very heavy book, so I didn't finish it. But while I have Christmas cheer going, that seems like the right countervalence to the heaviness that is going to be in that book. So I may endeavor to listen to an audiobook, namely that audiobook, while I decorate my tree. So we'll see if that pans out. Either way, I'll come back with a final wrap up. Tree is up, which means I finished The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which is a pretty short audiobook. It was just about the right amount of time for me to get through with all my decorating. So that worked out well. It was good. It was definitely really good. I'm trying to think of how to talk about it. So it's called The Message because it's kind of, it's supposed to be his book about writing. That was his original intent. And I think it's kind of a play on the medium as The Message. And he's kind of exploring like, how do you have a book about writing without talking about the narratives that we have when we write? So he kind of has like 3 vignettes or centerpieces. One is him going to Africa and kind of like, what does that mean as a Black American man, going back to Africa and having to confront sort of like an idealized idea of what that means and what that would be. So thinking about that, then he talks about public school system in South Carolina, I think, and like how we teach kids about writing. He gets into like book banning, so that's definitely very topical. And then he gets into Palestine, and he is in the Levant and confronting narratives about that. He had that was the main thing that I had heard about this book with some of the news coverage around that piece of the book, and I definitely think it's the strongest. It's the most timely in some ways, though I mean the book banning stuff too. And really impactful. And I think he's exploring a lot about like how journalism in the US or in the West, I guess, has like really shaped a narrative about what people perceive, and kind of like wrestling with his anger about that versus his own complicity. And I felt very seen by a lot of what he was saying in that. So I feel like I need to get a physical copy. There was like a one-liner, and I'll try to like type it up and put it in here, that I stopped and like wrote down because I thought it was just really impactful. And then another one-liner I remember is, your oppression will not save you. I forget the rest of what he was saying in that, but that was like also the context of that was very impactful. Anyway, I feel like I need to get the physical book so I can mark up some quotes for a few different parts of that section, but that was very good. I would say it's so hard because Between the World and Me is like a masterpiece of memoir. So it's kind of like, once you've done that, it's sort of like hard to compare. I would say it's not as good as that, but it was a very worthwhile and edifying read. If I had to give it a rating, probably like 4 stars, which is an A-. I thought it was very good and worthwhile. And like I said, not very long. So if you're looking for something, shorter in nonfiction / memoir, it's kind of I would say it's personal essays probably is the genre, the subgenre, I would recommend. So that means, honestly, this was just like a big old hit of a vlog, guys, because the lowest rated book I had was this guy, and it was still very enjoyable and good, and I'm glad that I read it. So 3.5 stars. I would probably put The Message after that. And then I gave 4 stars to Just for the Summer. I'd probably put that in the middle of the pack. I'd put We Solve Murders as number 2. I gave this 4.5 stars. Though I will say 4.5 stars because I like the characters so much. The actual book is probably more like a 4. The same way that Just for the Summer is probably actually more like a 4.5, but because the plot or like the type of book wasn't connecting with me, it's a 4. This is probably more like a 4, but because I like the character so much, I'll give it a 4.5. And then my favorite definitely was The Spell Shop. I gave this 5 stars. This was an absolute delight, and I'm so glad that this pushed me to pick it up because I'd wanted to read it. I mean, obviously, did I pre-order this? I definitely wanted to read this, but I'm not sure if I would have made the time to read it this year if, like, by the end of the year, if I hadn't had this challenge. So this was a great vlog for me. What's my takeaway here? I think it's interesting because this experience reminds me quite a bit of my video I usually do in January, and I imagine I will again, which is like reading people's best of the year books that are already on my TBR or on my radar. It's sort of like if you combine popularity plus a book that I'm genuinely already interested in, it equals me having a really good reading experience. So popularity can be a helpful tell sometimes, guys, it turns out. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to post this before the finals or the winners are announced. Oh, I should go change my vote because I think I should vote for, because I feel like I should be, oh gosh, sorry, this gimbal is just killing me. For how expensive it was, you would think that it would be better. I wish I'd just gotten an unsmart one. Okay, we're just gonna have to live with the tilt. I'm sorry. The next video I start will be back on my normal camera, and we will not have this problem. Anyway, I'm just saying I need to go change my vote here to be this one because I think it definitely should get my vote. Okay, we're tilted, so we're gonna wrap this up. This was a good experience. I'm glad that I did this, and let me know what you thought of any of the books I read. Let me know if you have any of the Goodreads noms that you think are actually really good and you're glad they're getting the recognition. And let's see, what's coming up next? Wrap up, and then we're gonna be getting into list time, baby! Get excited. Year-end lists are coming up soon. So like the video if you liked it, hit the bell if you want to know when I post, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!